Hi, this is Patrick Henry, the CEO of Quest Fusion with The Real Deal What Matters. On December 14th, 2012, 20-year-old Adam Lanza murdered 26 people, including 20 children between the ages of 6 and 7 years old, and 6 adult staff members at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newton, Connecticut. Before driving to school, Adam shot and killed his mother at their Newton home. As first responders arrived at school, Lanza committed suicide by shooting himself in the head. One of the children that Lanza shot and killed was 6-year-old Jessie Lewis. The Sandy Hook school shooting remains the deadliest mass shooting at either a primary or secondary school in the United States history. It's the second deadliest school shooting ever overall, and the fourth deadliest mass shooting in US history. According to Marilyn Mendoza, PhD, in her 2016 article in Psychology Today, she said, grief can vary depending upon how the child died, the grief for the parent. For parents to have lost a child, the pain is indescribable. They suffer depression, anger, guilt, despair, and loneliness. Even years later, I have moms say that they cannot wait until they die so they can see their child again. I'm talking today with Jessie's mom, Scarlett Lewis, who has graciously agreed to share some of her story with us. Scarlett is the founder and chief movement officer of the Jessie Lewis Choose Love movement. Obviously, this is a difficult and really challenging topic, but in this overcoming adversity and leadership through adversity, I think some of the messages and some of the things that Scarlett is doing with her program are very timely and important, especially in these days of the COVID-19 virus. So welcome, Scarlett.
Thank you, Patrick. It's nice to be here.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? And, I guess the big point for me is growing through adversity. Obviously, this is a traumatic thing for any parent to go through, and it just, it breaks my heart. So why don't you just kind of launch into it and, give us a little bit of background and we can go from there.
Sure. Yeah, I think that we are shaped and molded by the difficulty and challenges and roadblocks that we face in our lives. And we can either resist and avoid them or fear them, or we can choose to grow from them. And of course, with that being said, having your 6-year-old son murdered in his first grade classroom is quite an adversity. But I chose to not be another victim. I knew that if I stayed in hatred and resentment and anger, the obviously very troubled young man, former student of Sandy Hook Elementary, whose mother had taught at the school, to have control over my thoughts that impact my feelings, that then impact my behavior. And I absolutely did not want to do that. I had a 12-year-old son as well at the time, and I wanted to model for him what resilience and even post-traumatic growth looked like. And I knew that everything that came out of my mouth, every gesture, every word that he was absorbing and taking in, and was teaching him how to handle adversity going forward in his life. And so I think that helped me rise to the occasion and strengthen me as well.
That's amazing. So I saw a short video, and it just tore me up on your website. And one of the things that I saw in there was that Jessie left a message that morning before school on his board, talking about nurturing, healing love. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and how that's kind of shaped your purpose going forward?
Absolutely. I found that message shortly after he died, where he'd phonetically spelled nurturing, healing love. And I remember seeing that and being shocked and knowing instantly that if the shooter had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, that the tragedy would never have happened. It was as simple as that. I knew from that moment going forward that that was the purpose of my life, was to spread that message. And I knew the first place I had to get that message was in schools. And so that really has driven my mission and my movement for the past 7 years.
So tell me a little bit about, you know, the formula that you use and the resources that you have available in the Choosing Love movement, both for schools as well as for the workplace.
Yes, absolutely. So we have next generation lifespan social and emotional character development, all the way from prenatal and toddler, pre-K through 12th grade, homes and communities, and recently a workplace program. I don't think any other organization offers that. And it's all based around this powerful and profound formula for choosing love in any situation, circumstance, or interaction. So the thought is, you can't always choose what happens to you in life, but you can always choose how you thoughtfully respond. You can always respond with love. And so this formula can lead you to thoughtfully responding with love in any situation. And it's derived from Jesse's message of nurturing, healing love. The first character value is courage, because of course, courage is the most important of character values that underlies all the rest. And it comes from Jesse's example of courage, actually, where he stood up to the shooter that came into his first grade classroom shortly after murdering his principal and counselor right outside his door. And the shooter's gun ran out of bullets, or his gun jammed. And during the short delay, Jesse called for his friends to run. And he was able to save 9 of his classmates' lives before losing his own. For that act of heroicism, he is on the short list for the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
That's incredible.
It is really incredible. By the way, I have to remind myself every day that if Jesse, my 6-year-old son, could have done something like that, and certainly I can get up every day and I can put my best foot forward, and I can be part of the solution in the Choose Love movement, which is a lot of my motivation. Of course, we all have that courage, but courage is like a muscle. We have to practice it. Then we go into gratitude, and everyone knows the importance of gratitude, but we use it as a mind shifter to be able to shift out of a lower energy thought to a higher energy thought. And then we move into forgiveness. And of course, forgiveness has been a huge part of my healing journey. I made the decision to forgive Adam Lanza very early on, not wanting to be another one of his victims, not wanting him to destroy my life as well. And it was the best decision I ever made. And it's so vitally important.
Yeah, off camera, a little bit about, you know, kind of a story that you had around forgiveness with some of the younger kids. Can you tell me about that on camera so the folks online get to hear about it?
Yeah. So we have these bands that we give out to kids. Our programming is being taught in every state. All the adults told me, you can't teach kids forgiveness. That's way too lofty a topic. But when you ask the kids, they say forgiveness is their favorite character value, and it blows my mind every time. And I say, why forgiveness? Legitimately puzzled. And they say, because it's like a superpower, because it feels so good to let it go. Wow. Can you imagine if we knew that as early as like 5th grade, how different our lives would be?
Pretty amazing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we go into compassion in action, which is literally having the courage to step outside of our comfort zone, which, by the way, coronavirus has done for us, and to look to help other people. And when we've had the courage to practice those 3 character values, we're choosing love, and we're taking our personal power back and making the world a better place.
So tell me a little bit more about kind of what you're doing specifically around COVID-19 And I think you have like a daily text and some other resources that you have on your website.
Yes, absolutely. So we have this lifespan programming, and now kids are home with the parents, and we had an inquiry as to how they could keep the social and emotional practice going every day, and how the parents could practice, because these skills and tools aren't innate within us. We have to practice them every day. So we have a daily text. We are in partnership with the Santoro Foundation and the University of South Florida. A daily text, you can text SEL, short for social emotional learning, to 484848, and you can get a daily tip, hint, practice, and what you can do with your kids at home, all of you together, which is really fun. We have a coronavirus tab on our website, chooselovemovement.org. Tons of resources for everyone. We have lifespan programming. So we've got a lot of stuff on our web for everyone. And, we have this time. When did you ever want kind of the world to slow down and to be able to work on yourself? Everybody says, oh, so busy, 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 but busy is really a reactive thing. And we have time now to be proactive and to practice self-care. And there's no better way than to choose love over fear. That's our main message.
That's awesome. And I know, I'm sure everybody in our audience has heard about post-traumatic stress disorder, but you mentioned post-traumatic growth. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And obviously, we all, need to love and need to be loved. And how does that dovetail into all the things that you're doing?
Absolutely. It's so interesting because we have this negative bias. The majority of our thoughts every day are negative and repetitive. And by the way, that's in a normal world.
Yeah.
And so we've all heard of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. But no one, and by the way, if you look it up, 7% of the population suffers from PTSD at one point in their lives, but the vast majority of us experience something called post-traumatic growth. When we face difficulty, when we're outside our comfort zone, when we hit roadblocks and challenges, we usually grow through it. And that has a scientific term. There's research behind it. It's called post-traumatic growth. But almost nobody's ever heard of it because of our negative bias. We're looking for things that might harm us. And I always encourage people, I'm not saying don't look out for things that might harm you, but while you're doing that, you also have to step outside your comfort zone and look for things that can help you. And that is definitely just understanding that the majority of us are growing through difficulty on a daily basis. And this brings us all together as human beings. I mean, we're all the same in the want and need to love and be loved. Every single one of us, regardless of age, race, color, religion, any perceived difference at all. We all want to love and be loved. That brings us together. We all feel pain and suffer. We all also are susceptible to COVID-19, yet we all just want to be happy. And thoughtfully responding with love and having healthy relationships and meaningful connections is a great way to do that. It's actually the best way that I know to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting for me talking to you. And yes, we've talked a couple times now, but you really are kind of that living embodiment of courage, gratitude, forgiveness, compassion, and action. And it's really, you walk the talk. So I think that's just incredible. And I think what you're doing can help so many people in so many different contexts. And like you said, we're going through something right now unprecedented in terms of the level of adversity and stress and anxiety and dealing with so much uncertainty and ambiguity. And, most people just aren't equipped to deal with that, and seeing it kind of as a growth opportunity and having that gratitude and taking advantage of those small moments and the extra time that we have is really important. So, let's wrap it up. Are there any kind of major things you want to leave with our audience? And, how can people get a hold of you?
I just think that, you can look at this time as something to fear. Not that I'm not anxious at times as well, but you can also use the time for your personal growth. Nature has already done half the work for us. It's gotten us outside of our comfort zones. We don't like to get outside of our comfort zones. We're all already there. So I just encourage everyone to use the time productively. Why not? You're already outside your comfort zone. Our world has changed. So change with it, but for the better. And I encourage everyone to visit our website, chooselovemovement.org. We truly do have lifespan programming, and these are what are called essential life skills. We're not born with them. We have to learn them. And by the way, you could be an adult like me at 44 years old when Jesse was murdered, and I found out about all of this, realizing despite the fact that I have an investment banking bond trading background, I'm a college graduate, I did not have social and emotional intelligence. And I've learned it as an adult, and it has literally changed my life for the better. And I know that it can yours as well. And it's not difficult. It does take effort though. It takes choice, it takes practice, but it can be fun as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Scarlett. I'm talking to Scarlett Lewis, the Chief Movement Officer of the Choose Love Movement. Definitely reach out to her, especially if you have young kids and your school doesn't have a program around this. This is one of the lowest cost ways that you can implement this in your school. And definitely take advantage of the resources she has on her website around COVID-19. Obviously, these are really important things in these kind of troubling times. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Patrick.